World Food Students. I wasn't even sure if I needed to send you a slideshow this time. Tacos are from Mexico, and you already know quite a bit about our southern neighbor. But I don't want to take anything for granted, so here we go. Mexico is a really colorful culture, lots of exuberance. There's some ancientness there. Civilization doesn't go as far back in Mexico as it did in, say, Greece or Egypt, but when we look at the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Teotihuacan culture and so on, those go back more than 1,000 years. So we have things like pyramids. This is more from colonial times, this cathedral in Mexico City, one of the largest cities in the world. So yeah, a rich history. That's all I'm really getting at as we move into this. Again, I didn't probably need to show you Mexico on a map, but I put it here anyway just to remind you of how big it is. Spanish is the primary language of Mexico, as you know, and the capital is Mexico City. There are 126 million people in Mexico, most of them Catholic. So geographically, like most big countries, it is diverse. In the north, a lot of desert. In the south, a lot of jungle. In the middle, kind of a cross between the two, and it's really high elevation in this central plateau where people are living at 7,000 feet in places like Mexico City. Most of the population lives in the central part of the country. The economy of Mexico is a free market economy, especially in the last 40 years, since 1980. Before that, it was a little bit more state-controlled, but they opened things up. 2/3 of the economy of Mexico is what's called services, things like transportation and finance and so on. There is a manufacturing sector. There are a lot of people who do agriculture and farming, but it's a really small piece of the economic pie in Mexico. Like a lot of countries south of our border, they've gone through cycles in the last several decades of boom and bust. All right, talking a little bit about history. Like I said, it goes back more than 1,000 years. There were various civilizations. The Mayans here in the Yucatan and down into Central America, and the Aztecs in the central part. Before them, the civilization of Teotihuacan. And we have Mexico City is just one civilization built on top of another, like layers. Starting in the 1500s, Spain occupied Mexico and most of South America, for that matter, and controlled it until the 1800s, which is why Spanish is the language of Mexico, and Catholicism is the religion. But Mexico fought for and gained its independence in 1821, and after that, they were governed sort of by a republic, but it was a really conservative republic. By that I mean that the vast majority of the power and the wealth went to people who owned a lot of land and had a lot of money. So that in 1910, there was a revolution, and Mexico became much more aware of the rights of workers, the need for universal education. It became a more progressive country, and in some ways even socialist. Like I said, in the last 40 years, it's backed off from some of that. So that is kind of a thumbnail sketch of Mexico's history, leading up to food. Again, you know a lot about food. There are more Mexican restaurants around here than restaurants from any other ethnic group. So, yeah, I'm reviewing things you already know. Mexican food is based on food staples that are mostly native to their region. Things like corn. We make a lot of flour tortillas. They mostly make tortillas out of corn in Mexico, and a lot of other things out of corn. They use beans, they use chili peppers, they use chocolate, tomatoes, avocados. These things all grow there naturally. So if we wanted to look at a hit parade of foods from Mexico, I'm starting with things that you have probably all eaten and that you know about, and then I'm going to give you a few things that you may or may not have heard of. You know about tacos and you're going to make those. Burritos, enchiladas. You've probably had tamales. These are wrapped in like corn husk, right? You may not have had chilaquiles. Great breakfast food in Mexico. Or pozole. Yeah, that's here, which is a soup with various things put on top of it at the end. Or mole sauce, which is used on special occasions in Mexico. Has a lot of ingredients. I don't know if any of you will decide you want to make mole for your salsa. A lot of people find it kind of weird because of the chocolate and stuff, lots of nuts in it, just lots of flavors. When it's done right, it's amazing. Anyway, so those are just some of the highlights, and I trust that you will have fun making salsa and figuring out what to put in your tacos, and that we'll even get to share some of that online this week. Enjoy. I hope that you are well. God bless you.